So what we have here is one of the submissions. And you can see that we've got a variety of points. So exactly what I asked for. Just I want to show how to refine some of the points. So if I move some things around, oh, how did that happen? Oh, so okay, so there's one thing that I didn't even notice that you guys need to be aware of. When you're drawing splines and things, these handles can actually snap to a line. So you can see where that point is tangent to that line. So if I, or pierce, so if I actually move this whole spline without realizing it, it's moving that one. So we want to make sure that when we do our curves, that our relationships are exactly what we want. So let us, for this, what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to steal this one. Now, not sure if I've taught you guys this before, but I just copied that. What I'm going to do is create a new sketch. And paste that spline back in there. And then we can hide that. So here's what's going to happen. So if I look at this first, and it's fine, the individual used control splines, or splines with the handles. Again, we've got two different types. Now, if I look at this, and I put on my curvature, show my curvature, you can see right off the bat, we've got a few problems. If I extrude this, and I'm just going to go with a surface, and I'm just going to do a extrude surface. So no curvature, no nothing. Now, for all intents and purposes, you can see everything looks fine. So I'm just going to quickly dump this into Keyshot. And this is more just for demonstration's sake. We will go with our classic candy apple, or let's go with blazing copper. So it doesn't look bad. You can kind of see a little bit how it's not the smoothest highlight along it. As if you go, you can also see that there's a little bit of a wobble and a little bit of a lump in there. So it's not overly smooth. And where you can see that is, again, once you learn to start looking at the curves, let me pull the right one up. Once you learn to start looking at the curves and those curvature combs, all that relates to what we're looking at. So if we go to evaluate and we go to curvature, you can see that it does follow the curvature that we want, but it's not necessarily as smooth. So overall though, not bad. But let's say I want to come back and edit that curve slightly. So for all intents and purposes, I'm just going to drag it up to here, because it is a pretty good facsimile, close enough copy. Let's turn off curvature. But let's say, oh, I want to tweak this just a little. Now remember, this point does not move. It's fixed. So as you see, I can do this, but that point will never move. So as I go here, I've got to really kind of play with it. Now you can see I've got a little bit of flatter spot here. So as I play with this, that kind of goes. If I come back, and basically, you know, if I start here and I start continuing to play with it, you've got so many little minute adjustments to get to.
Hey Travis, I have a question about this adjustment process. I don't know if it's the sensitivity of my mouse, but sometimes when I'm trying to click on a certain spline point, it just like will freak out and just try to like, I guess, over move the point. And I'm wondering if there's a way you can change like the sensitivity of how you're rotating those points, or if I should just like decrease the sensitivity of my mouse or something.
Yeah. So two things. Let's take a look at that at the end of the class. It may be the sensitivity of your mouse. My son, for gaming, has his mouse so sensitive that what would be a inch movement in mine to get across the screen like 2 inches, he'll move his an inch and it'll go across 3 different monitors. You know, so we'll take a look at that.
All right.
So now you can kind of see I've tried to edit this a little bit just to say, hey, you know what? I want this a little bit better. You can see the more points, the more amount of adjustment I need to do. So we'll come back and we'll toss on our curvature combs. And you can see, well, this now is pretty much a flat. That's not what I wanted. So I got to come back. We'll try to adjust it a little bit more. I'm not quite getting that because it's got to be a curve, because your senior designer has said I don't want any flats on it. Now, if I extrude this, now you can see by trying to get it, even from the curvature, what this is showing, if you can see the numbers, the curvature here is 0.02. Curvature up here is 0.006. So theoretically, this and this, so we got 0.01. But then if we come in here, so where the curvature here is, or rate of curvature is 71, out here is 47, up here is 55, it should be going a nice flat, you know, smooth rate from the bigger number to the smaller number, but we've got it wobbling in here. So that's going to tell me that I'm going to see something or some issue in my surfaces. Let's just come back to our candy apple red. I don't know why that didn't update. I know why. Let's minimize that. Let me do this. So now you can see even more so where I want everything to be smooth, I've got a crease in here. So again, if I was to come back, we're going to take this, we're going to move it up here. We'll get rid of our curvature combs. Spend just a little bit more time. So again, we spoke about, you know, start with the fewest. If you need more, then add them. Now sometimes, and we'll get down to this later, instead of adding a point, I'll add a transition curve that might be more able to control better. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to start with 1 and 1. Now, this may not be enough, but it's this time up front that is going to allow me to save a lot of time downstream. Now, I make this look a little bit easier because I know a little bit more about how to post them. So I'm not quite getting what I want, and it's more at that bottom end. So if I can't get that bottom end, then sometimes you got to come to the back, pull that out. So where I'm not getting that to be perfect, I would either trim that, or maybe I do need to add one more. If I remember where to add the point. And usually where you need to add a point, if you're trying to do a very long one, is at the point where it's going to curve the most, or the rate of change is greater. But you can see now it automatically becomes a little bit more difficult to manage. And for what we're doing, I'm going to say that's pretty close. I like that. Let's look at our curvature comb. Let's look at our curvature comb up here. Curvature comb. This is the one I didn't touch. This is one that we did make. So this is where what I'm saying is fewer points will give you that cleaner line. Fewer points will give you a less complicated surface, and easier to manipulate when you want to make a change. You know, for example, if I want to raise this up here a little bit, I'm going to come in, I'm going to raise it up there. Now I've got a little bit more whale tail, whatever you want to call it. If I want to make that same change here, we're going to raise it up. Well, then I got to raise this up. I'm still not getting that smoothness now because that point is a little bit weird. So I got to pull. See, this is why I hate doing these ones, because even I have a hard time with them. So I can't enforce or reinforce enough. Start with 2 points. Spend that extra 5 minutes, you know. And I'm not saying, again, I'm not saying to get the curve perfect, but spend that extra 5 minutes, 10 minutes, I don't care how long, to get your curve simple. Because that will save you a whole lot of time down the road where you say, oh, this just doesn't look quite right. Or I say it doesn't look quite right. I want you to flatten that curve out. Or I want you to add more curvature. It will take you 5 times longer than it would have if you just made the curve simpler. So really, really try and focus on that. Downstream, what will happen, and when I've done surface modeling, I hate to tell this to people, but when they don't do the upfront work and they come to me and they say, how can I fix this? I look at their model and I say, well, go to the beginning again and redo it, because you're never going to get it the way you want. Chevis, were you wanting to record this? Yes, I recorded. Did you miss that whole moment where I did all the testing? But thank you for asking. So, again, if we come back, let's exit out of this. You can now see, too, that I've got a nice smooth transition. So here, again, where we've got curvature at 85, 83, 39, it should consistently go downward. Smaller radiuses, tighter radiuses, because that's what our surface is doing. Well, I go from 88 here, 70 there, back up to 88. That all gets reflected in the highlights. Here, 102. At no point does it go up as I move forward. So that's really going to be the importance of getting a nice looking surface for when you do your renderings, or if you make a 3D print and you decide that you want to do high res, put some Bondo over top of it and paint it. This is what makes the difference. It can also make a big difference if this has to be manufacturable, or if there has to be a draft on there. Because if there's supposed to be draft, it's going to get a wobble. And then what happens is, if I build a surface off of this, or a curve, then there's going to be a bigger wobble in here. Where here it's going to be smooth. So everything happens, your primary surface, everything after that, if there's a mistake, will get bigger and bigger and bigger of a mistake. That's where, when you see the menu tree, how far back do I have to go to fix it, determines how long it may take me to redo my model. Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah, Ben.
So, when you have like the splines, when it's just like an extrude like this, that profile remains the same, so the banding is like consistent in the model in SolidWorks. But when you bring it into KeyShot, the highlight almost looks like it's wobbling along the surface. Is there a reason why the light does that?
On what surface? On this one?
Yes, on the one that isn't right.
Right. So the reason that it's wobbling is because my surface is wobbling. So exaggerate it where this is a low spot and this is a high spot. My surface is doing this. Does that make sense?
Yes, but I'm more... So when you brought it into KeyShot, it looked like it was wobbling like the opposite way the grain is going.
It looked like it was wobbling across this direction?
No, the vertical direction.
This way?
Is that because since it like goes in, the light will catch more on those like lips?
So I'm not quite following the wobble. Was it this direction, left and right, or front and back? Or across an angle?
Here, I'll draw it.
Yeah.
So this is like the edge of the surface or whatever, where it curves down.
Yep.
Then the highlight is almost like a diamond shape. Like, do you see how there's like those like bumps in it? Why do they...
Here?
Yes. Like, why do they stay... It almost looks like the highlight's going diagonal.
Yep.
Since it's an extrude, the surface is just like completely parallel. Why is it diagonal like that?
Okay. So... let me... So what it basically is it's the way the light was hitting it. The camera was over here. The surface is here. So it's not... Part of it is the form, but part of it is also where the light was hitting. So it was getting that wobble, but... So if the light... Let me pull this up. If the light is coming down and it's hitting this area here, as I rotate, what's going to happen is as it goes through these low and valleys, it's going to look like it's wobbling even though it's going straight across the plane. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So also, if we turn on the zebra striping, here's something else that you can see as we go through zebra stripes. Where was it? There we go. See how we've got a crease there? See how this is nice and curved? That's also showing you, oh, there's a tight bump there. There's a tight radius. So, oh, I never told you guys. If your model goes way off screen like that, do you know that if you double click your middle mouse button, it brings it back to the center of the screen? Okay, just a little trick. So if I come back in here, no, that's not what I wanted to do. Bugger off. If I come back in here, we go back to Keyshot. You can see now, it's kind of hard to see. Well, trust me, it's better. When you start getting that glossy surface, you know, it literally smooths it out. Let's turn that off. So always take a look. If you start seeing this, that's what your highlight's going to do. It's going to go high, low, dip. Okay. Questions on simplifying the splines. Questions on the importance. Okay. So sometimes they're always going to be extremely complicated. And you're not going to get past that. This is where you're going to want to do transition splines. And we'll get into this in a little bit because we're going to do transition surfacing too. But even for this one, if I come in and let's go, oh, I'm already in Sketch. Even on this one, I feel we might be able to simplify it a little bit. So again, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think that might be fewer than what we had. Now, the one thing with these is you really have to pull them all over the screen. So that can sometimes be the annoyance of these. So as I look at this, I'm going to say that I'm never going to get this fixed in this area here. And the reason I say I'm never going to get it fixed is because going from up here to down there, there's just going to be too much. So again, I'm going to look at it. And I don't think I could reduce this any more than I already have. So that's where, again, insert one point. Oh, whoops. I got to insert the point. I always forget that. If I'm going to insert on these, I got to insert there. So I could continue to play with that. And I feel I could get there, you know, with a little bit of time. So let's see, I used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's see if we can count here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So reduced it by 3, I think, but still will make a big difference just for that refinement. And again, it's kind of like when you're sculpting wood or you're sculpting clay. You know, you're going to start off with big broad strokes. You're going to tear chunks off, or you're going to build a big bulky surface. It's going to look like what you want, but then afterwards you're going to go in and you're going to finesse it. And that's where you're going to go in and you're going to start moving things around and going, well, like, you know what? Let's get that a little bit. Let's go here a little bit. And it's all going to be based on adjusting your highlights and getting that form and that feel. As I said, when it comes to that point, if I've got to move 10 CVs or 4 CVs, it makes life a little bit quicker and simpler. Okay, so we've got that. Questions, that's kind of a repeat, but I just wanted to show that. Okay, so for those of you that have a whole lot of points on your splines, and let me call you all out by name so that you know. We are going to go here. Awesome. Really try to simplify them. Like, I want you to go back and I want you to spend time and get them simplified. Okay? This could be probably reduced by a considerable number. So Jeffrey, go back in there, play with that, really cut it down. Okay? Use this as a reference. For example, I think that given time, you could probably make this with only 4 points. And when I say 4 points, you know, start, end, and 4 points in between.
All right, cool.
And this is going to be some of the stuff I want you to work on today. Okay, so Kobe. Okay, so Kobe, your lines, I know you got a whole bunch of the cross-section lines, but this line here, correct me if I'm wrong, that's only the start and the end, right? Yeah.
Yep. Most of them are just start and end. I think maybe 2 or 3 are like up to 3 or 4. That's it.
Yeah, and I can see that in this one where you've got more change.
Mm-hmm. The only spline I was having a tough time with was the one that's in the middle.
Yep.
Like the curvature combs look kind of funky on them, and I was having a tough time like getting it to roll the way I wanted it to.
Yeah. So, and for that, I'll guarantee you the reason your curvature combs were looking funky is this one point right here.
Yeah, that's the one.
So what I would suggest for part of today is get that one out and try to just refine it without that point. Or utilize the style spline. So you don't always, like, just because you used one of these splines doesn't mean that you can't go and manipulate it with the other one.
A little bit of mix and match.
Yeah. So give that a try.
Word, thanks.
Pietro? What am I missing on here?
My splines.
Yeah. So get doing that right now, please.
Yeah.
Okay, pretty simple. Benji, I think you could probably remove this one. I don't know about that one. I might have to stay. Try to remove this one and use the style spline. See if you can clean that up and get less out of it.
Where do you want me to add the style spline?
So hold on, let me make sure I'm telling you the right command. Yeah, style spline. So I don't think you're going to be able to remove this with the styles with just a regular spline. So remove this and put a style spline in here so that you can try to get rid of one of the points. And you should be able to do that with maybe 4 points, 4 CVs. Okay?
Okay.
Peyton.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm just looking. I said your name, but I'm just looking.
Okay.
Okay, so that's 1, 2. So you've only got 4 there. Yours has too many curving intersections. It's hard for me to see. That's got 4. I just don't know what this one goes to. Which is
Do you
fine.
want the file? I can send it to you real quick.
No, don't worry about it. It looks, I'm just trying to see the ones where they connect the dots. So yours looks nice and clean. Okay, Megan, I really want you to spend some time using less points. Okay, because I can see even at this point where there's going to be some flats and dips. So really spend some time and look at getting rid of some of those CVs.
Okay.
Olivia, I'm a little confused.
Should I just outline the side profile?
Yes, okay, that's why I'm confused. Yes. So I thought that one was in perspective, but I wasn't sure. So yeah, so go back and just outline the side profile. For this one, try using the style spline and try to get it down to 4 or 5 points in between. With this being one curve, that being a separate curve up there. This will all be done after the demo and stuff. Jillian, same thing. I think oh wait, is this one? No, you got one there. Same thing. This, as an example, this top one definitely could just be made out of 4.
Okay.
So I have a question. Oh, sorry. Let me finish this. Dominic, I can't. Are yours just start and finish?
Yep.
Okay. Nathan, if you could do me a favor and get up an image that shows your spline, your side profile and your splines and stuff before you started doing the transition surfaces.
Yeah, sure.
Awesome.
Unless I can open the file.
Yeah, no worries. Reed, what am I missing?
Yeah, I'm uploading mine right now, sorry.
Okay. So just so you guys know, every time I ask for something to be done by the class or whatever, it's being tracked, and when you don't have it up there, it's pretty much a 0. It's small. They're only like 5-point assignments, but those add up when, it's 25%. Okay, Haley. Nice. And this is what I'm talking about. So Haley, I like how you got just one curve here and 2 curves here. This is a perfect example of what would happen is, in order to keep your curve simplified, we would come back, and then what we would do is we would build this portion of the surface. Oh, that's really ridiculous. We would build this portion of the surface. We would build this portion of the surface. And then we would come back in, and just like I showed you guys where you had the two curves, what we would do is we would come back in and create a curve in between and fill it so we could get that nicer smooth line. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay. Evan. Same thing, even if you're using the spline lines or the splines, this one could definitely be just a start and an end. This one maybe more so. This one definitely less. So I want you to try to clean that up and reduce again too.
All right, sounds good.
Nick, same thing. Or did I already yell at Nick? Liv, we went through yours. Okay, I think I touched on everybody's. Is that fair to say? Okay, so I just want to dive in here a little bit on maybe a little bit of the psychology of why you guys are doing this. And when I say why, I mean how the method that you're approaching to create these sketch lines. So, because I may not have made this clear. So when some of you, and you, it's not a right or wrong answer. It's not, oh, hey, I'm getting in trouble. Tell me if what you're doing is you're going, well, here's a point, and then I want it to cross through here, and then I want it to cross through here, and then I want it to go there. Okay, now let me try to adjust it. Is that kind of the approach that some of you are taking? Or vice versa, if I'm using the style splines, like you're following the curve a little bit and then going back and adjusting. Is that kind of what some of you are doing, you know, to get your spline or to get your curve down? Anyone?
Not really.
Sorry, let me rephrase that. For those of you who have more that I called out and said that they had too many points, is this kind of what you're doing, the approach?
I would say that's kind of what I'm doing.
Okay, awesome. So think about it this way. If I was here, let me hop over to the other screen. This part isn't going to get recorded, so I may actually be able to sketch today because I'm all warmed up. So if you think about it, when you're sketching, you don't do this. Where here, what I've done is I've stopped there, I've stopped there, I've stopped there, and then I've stopped there. Now, a lot of people do sketch that way, you know, to try to get it, and they're just bridging the dots. What we want to try to do is connect the dots. So if you haven't been taught this, what I do, point, point. I look at that on the screen. When I started sketching, or a long time ago, I literally made those 2 points because I'm not following my pen. I'm not looking at the in-between. I'm looking, I know where I'm going to start, and I look at the end. So if I got here, and I visually look at where the points are, and I'm not following my pencil, I'm looking at the end. Now, it's not perfect, but it's how I get my lines. So the approach is, think about the start and the end of your spline, okay? Don't worry about, if I've got this, don't worry about following that line to begin with. You lay your first one down, and I don't care where you put them, 1, 2, 3, 4. You know that they're all going to have to be above, because that's what's going to create the line above. There's not going to be any dip. Now, if I wanted this, I know that one of these is going to have to be down there. So with the splines, again, let's go with violet. 1 point here, 1 point here, and then play with it in between to get that. Don't worry about the middle, okay? That comes with the adjustment. So your goal isn't to match that line perfectly when you start the spline. It's about just getting it on there and then moving it and refining it. Does that help when you think about how you're going to make the spline? Who was it? Was it Jillian?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and for the rest of you, same kind of thing. I'm going to really, when we do surfacing, I really want to try to focus on when I see something, not just telling you, hey, you're doing it wrong, but I want to try to understand what your thought process is when you're doing that, because then that way I can tell you a corrective behavior. Okay. I think that is everything I wanted to talk about splines. Questions? Thoughts? Okay. So let's take a look at what I did. Now, these were my first passes. I did not turn on my curvature combs or anything. So while we're in class, you can see I don't match my lines up right. But let's take a quick look at what this curvature comb looks like. And I'm going to say it's a clean spline, but is it necessarily the spline that I want? Because in my sketch, I've got this diving down a lot more. Oh. So I might just adjust it a little bit because I want it to be really aggressive and really falling down. So a really tighter radius here, so I'm going to look at that. So you can see, try to keep it simple. Some of them, took me a few minutes to get going. Did I? Oh no. I thought maybe I did exactly what somebody else did and didn't pay attention, had a connection. Now, what we're going to want to... Oh, come on. Turn off. One of these days I'm going to get my shortcut set up. Where you go. So what I did is much like what you guys did. So get it into perspective. What I did was actually build a box around it so that I had that, kind of like if you're sketching within a box. Make sure that I turn on, where is it? My perspective. There's nothing worse than when you get given a screenshot on a model that is not in perspective, because that's not how you're going to see it. And then what I'm going to do is, I don't know if you guys have this, or what you guys use for doing screenshots. Now, I want it on a white background because I want it nice and clean. You never know how you're going to use this, so everybody who puts those, just this standard, I don't know how you can work with that standard gray squared background, but anyways, what I use to get a screenshot is I simply just use the snipping tool that comes in Windows. It gives you a nice high-res snip. I do this a lot when someone's showing something or I need to capture something quickly. I'll just screenshot it in a meeting or something. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go New. We'll do a quick screenshot. File, save as. I'm going to tell my kid to stop making popping noises as he walks by my office. Did anybody see what kid that was? Long hair or short hair? My class. Now, did any of you take this into Sketchbook and play with it? Okay. So, what I'm going to do is, shoot, how am I going to record this? I hate this. Give me a second while I figure out. No. Oh, wait, is it that easy? Ooh. Well, that was easy enough. Okay. So I'm not going to look at you for a bit because I'm going to bring this in and just do a quick thing and show you what I'm looking for. Again, this isn't necessarily the workflow you have to take. This is a workflow. If you're great at sketching things and working the form out in perspective, then you can do that. This is a cheat tool that I use that I've shown you before to work on things. So I'll just give that a quick demo, or let me rephrase that. Do you guys need me to show you to bring this in and to start sketching over it in Sketchbook, or no?
I think we're good on that one.
Okay, good. Then I don't want to waste anybody's time. So what I want everybody to do is, what do I want you to do? I'm just trying to think here because I want to keep us moving. But I want everybody to work their form out in 3D, sketch-wise, prior to building it. And what I want you to do is really draw through when you do it and look at your primary surface. I want you to sketch it out so that you can really understand what that form is going to look like and what the overall form is. Once you've done that, or started with that, I'll start working on showing you how to lay down a few first curves. So how does this sound? Let's take a 15-minute break at 4:25. We'll come back. I'll give you guys 30 minutes to rough out this form. And then the remainder of the class, I'll dive back into SolidWorks and start showing you some surfacing using these curves that you've created. Does that sound good? Okay. Oh, go.
Would you like to check out my splines real quick before they break?
Yeah. Okay, so I don't need to record any more of this right now.